Breaking news, Donald Trump with a stern new warning to North Korea's Kim Jong-un tonight.
We are sending an armada, very powerful. We have submarines, very powerful, far more powerful than the aircraft carrier, that I can tell you. And we have the best military people on earth. And I will say this, he is doing the wrong thing.
Those bellicose comments coming after North Korea announced it's preparing to launch a nuclear strike against the U.S. if provoked. Will Ripley is out front tonight in Pyongyang.
Brand new images of North Korean leader Kim Jong-un presiding silently over the Supreme People's Assembly in Pyongyang. The man they call Supreme Leader sitting beneath giant statues of his father and grandfather, North Korea's two late leaders. The symbolism is clear. The third-generation leader, like his father and grandfather before him, continues to hold absolute power over North Korea and its growing nuclear arsenal. That arsenal has become central to what many here see as a potential showdown with the U.S. After a frantic series of North Korean missile launches, this week the U.S. moved warships, including the aircraft carrier USS Carl Vinson, off the Korean peninsula. That move prompted an angry response from the North Koreans overnight, hand-delivered to us in Pyongyang. Calling the warships reckless acts of aggression, the government told us if the U.S. dares to choose a military option, the DPRK is willing and ready to react to any mode of war desired by the U.S. President Trump responded in turn on Twitter today, writing, "North Korea is looking for trouble. If China decides to help, that would be great. If not, we will solve the problem without them. USA." And in a second tweet, I explained to the president of China that a trade deal with the U.S. will be far better for them if they solve the North Korean problem. Blunt words for the Kim Jong-un regime and for Chinese President Xi Jinping, who made no promises of specific action against the North Korean government after meeting Trump at Mar-a-Lago last week. China is North Korea's only meaningful trading partner, but it's not clear how far China is willing to go to rein in Pyongyang, or even if economic pressure would work. Tensions on the Korean peninsula at their highest level in years, with U.S. warships off the coast, and just days after President Trump ordered a missile strike on the Syrian government, perceived by some inside North Korea as a thinly veiled threat. This North Korean newsreader saying, "We are not intimidated." North Korean state media warning of a nuclear strike if provoked. You may hear the music playing behind me. This is a song that plays several times a day, blasted on loudspeakers across Pyongyang to remind people who live here about the sacrifices of the two late leaders. And of course, loyalty to the current leader, Kim Jong-un, is the reason that people are allowed to live in this city, Aaron. This is an unprecedented situation because never before have the North Koreans dealt with a U.S. president who has engaged in this kind of rhetoric, these tweets, which still North Korea has yet to issue an official response after that very strongly worded threat of a nuclear strike if the U.S. provokes this country. And with this flotilla of warships heading toward the Korean peninsula, expected to arrive in a matter of hours or days, nobody knows how these two sides are going to respond. It could potentially be a dangerous situation, Aaron.
All right, thank you very much, Will. Out front now, Gordon Chang, author of Nuclear Showdown, North Korea Takes on the World, the former Air Force Colonel Cedric Leighton, also a former member of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and General Marks is also here with me, Spider Marks. So I just think there's the eeriness, General, of that song. True. Which just says something so much about the brainwashing and what we see in North Korea, that in and of itself. I want to play what Donald Trump just said, because he is upping the ante from his tweet. Here's what he said.
We are sending an armada, very powerful. We have submarines, very powerful, far more powerful than the aircraft carrier, that I can tell you. And we have the best military people on earth. And I will say this, he is doing the wrong thing.
He's bragging about an armada, saying his submarines are even more powerful than that. Is that smart?
Well, the carrier battle group has an amazing capability, Aaron. You have surface, you have subsurface, you've got submarines, you've got aircraft that are available, and you have an interconnected ability to provide this amazing air defense capability. And it's a carrier battle group. The term armada is certainly a bit dated, but the message is very powerful. And the United States has full ability, and certainly it's not unprecedented for them to be in the Sea of Japan with a carrier battle group. So this is not unusual, kind of makes sense, and is very prudent.
So, Gordon, when you have the President of the United States saying, I have an armada coming in, and it's very powerful, and then my submarines are very, very powerful, and he's doing the wrong thing. You combine that with his tweet that he came out and said North Korea is looking for trouble. Is that the right way to speak to Kim Jong-un?
Yeah, I don't think so. You know, there's a very fine line between provocation and deterrence. But what Trump said was frightening, because he said the submarines were more powerful than the strike group. And on submarines, they carry nuclear-tipped missiles. So essentially what he was doing was saying, I'm going to obliterate you.
I can drop a
do
nuke
that
on you if I want to.
And you got to remember also that Kim Jong-un has a very low threshold of risk right now because of those 4 incidents starting from the end of January showing instability in the regime. So we don't really know how all of these statements are going to affect him, but we do know that he's probably going to act in ways that are going to surprise us.
I mean, Colonel, what do you say? I mean, he has come out, hand-delivered that message, as Will Ripley said, in which he said, self-defensive and preemptive strike capabilities with the nuclear force at the core. That is what North Korea says it is justified to do. When Donald Trump comes out and talks about his nuclear armed submarines, and you take the statement out of Pyongyang, how close are we?
I think we're pretty close, and I try to say that very carefully, because this is the brink. I mean, obviously, when you go into something like the Korean War back in the 50s, that was a hot war. We don't want to go there. But what we're seeing is this ramp up of rhetoric, where you have a very intransigent regime in Pyongyang, you have a seemingly intransigent president in the United States. You've got bystanders who have their respective positions, and especially China. Right. So you have a whole issue there where you have to bring all these people together, but they're rapidly diminishing the possibility of reaching some kind of a negotiated settlement, which would involve either the North Koreans not doing something from a nuclear perspective, or some reduction in force on either the U.S. or the South Korean side, and, of course, on the North Korean side.
So, General, when they say preemptive strike, that North Korea believes it would be justified to do that if provoked, is Donald Trump walking towards that line of provoking? Right? I mean, is he trying to walk up to the line of testing Kim Jong-un as to whether he really would do a preemptive strike?
I would suggest not. Look, the United States has a readiness posture, both in the South and in the region, that is at the very highest levels 24/7. And in fact, when you're on the peninsula, the way that you approach your job every day is be prepared to fight tonight. Be prepared at that level of readiness. Nothing else is acceptable. So the provocation, if we were trying to evaluate the level of tension, I would say it doesn't exist any differently today than it did the day before. The issue is what took place in Korea, what took place in Syria sends a very powerful message to the Kim regime in Pyongyang, which is this president is not afraid to strike and not afraid to take kinetic military action. And we have a carrier battle group that has immense, powerful precision capabilities.
Right.
They know that. The North knows that and have known that for years. So I think we need to kind of take a little bit of the air out of the balloon here, and I don't think we're ratcheting up the tension.
Gordon?
Well, a little bit. I mean, when you send a carrier strike group into the Sea of Japan, that's one thing. You know, and you say, of course, and it's right, that is, we always or often have a carrier there. The real
but the
issue
President of the United States isn't usually out there saying, I can nuke you if I want to.
Right. The one thing, though, is that we didn't send a carrier strike group into the Yellow Sea in 2010 because the Chinese were vehemently opposed to that. And because we didn't do that, the North Koreans did strike out against South Korea, shelling that island, killing 4 civilians. So this is going to be very difficult for Trump to calibrate the use of force or the sense of intimidation. So,
you know, less is better in this case. I really think very little needs to be said. There is immense capabilities in the United States military, and there are some very senior people in charge of both the Defense Department and National Security Council. The president probably doesn't need to say a thing.
You may be right, but of course he is not a man of less is more.
That's the issue.
And that is not how he's talking tonight. All right, thanks very much to all of you. Out front next, the breaking news. President Trump and Vice President